Hello, welcome everyone to our live stream. I'm happy that you guys are here. Today we are going to be talking about Beyond the Basics with Kadence Pro. My name is Katie Boykin. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Kadence. I am joined by product marketer Nicola Tweed, and of course we have Ben Rittner here with us as well, who is the Senior Director of Product for all of Stellar WP, and he invented Kadence. So we're really excited to have the whole team here together, not the whole team, but marketing team, essentially. So welcome, guys.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a fun conversation.
So today in our training, we're going to do a few things. But before I share exactly what those are, please in the comments share where you're watching from. We already know that there's a good number of people here, so we would love for this to be an engaged live stream. Ask questions. We may save questions for the end, but please chime in with your favorite features that you love to use. We just would love to hear from you in the chat as we are live. We are going to do a training at the beginning where we're going to talk about going beyond the basics and going pro. After that, we are going to dive into some amazing sneak peek previews of what we've got working with 4.0. And then, of course, we'll answer any frequently asked questions or questions from the audience towards the end. So that's the lineup. I see we have a lot of people already coming in here. We have people from Sacramento, the Netherlands are here, Poland, Norway, people from all around the world. So happy you guys are here, and we'll just let Nicola take it away. So,
okay. Cool. Awesome. I'm going to get started, and I am going to share my screen. So please let me know if you can share my see my screen. Let me just find the right window. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, you can. Okay, so you should be seeing the Kadence website. Is that right?
Right.
Right. Okay, so if you have built with Kadence before, you'll know how amazing it is. And if you don't, I highly recommend you check it out. But today we are going to look at 7 pro features that are really going to level up your workflow, your client sites, and even your income. So this kind of training is not workshop style, it's more demo. I'm just going to touch on a few of these 7 things. And if there's any of these 7 things that you think are amazing and you'd love to see more workshop style tutorial guides, then please pop it in the comments, and then we'll happily do a video for you. So everything I am going to be showing you today is available when you purchase one of our Kadence premium plans. And the great news is, and something we're so excited about, is that the Stellar sale is live from today through to August 5th, and you can get up to 30% off our Kadence plan. So be sure to check that out. This training is for designers, DIYers, and developers who want to take their websites to another level and just add more functionality to their website. So check out the Stellar sale. There is a whole page for that on the website. So let's dive straight on into it. And the first thing we are going to look at is mega menus. So as your website starts to grow, a basic menu can start to feel quite cramped. A basic drop-down menu, you're really restricted to kind of list items in stacked vertical kind of layout, much like this on this website. And just to let you know, this beautiful pre-designed template is one of our templates that went live a month or 2 ago. So be sure to check that one out. So with your mega menus, you can use multiple columns. You can add images, you can add in headers, and you can also add in icons just to make things more visually appealing and make it easy for your browsers or your readers to find the content that they're looking for. So it's not really about just creating a fancy menu. It's about creating a strategic one to help your visitors find the content and stay on your website. So What you're going to need for this is Theme Kit Pro, which is available with our Plus plan and our Ultimate plan. What we use is the Ultimate menu and hooked elements. So we'll simply toggle those two on. And once we toggle on the hooked elements, you will see elements here on the left-hand side. Of course, I've prepared this. That's why mine is already showing up. But I have created a content section element. It's pretty simple, and I've used the Kadence Blocks to build this out. Simple. It's a row. Within that row, there's 3 sections, and then we have a header. We have separators. You can see I've used icons. I've also used a post grid to build this out, and I don't know why it's going to another page, so let me go back to that. And basically, you'll see from this, it's 3 columns, and then on the right-hand side, I had kind of a sale banner. So let's just wait until it loads, because always tech happens. And someone, if this is their website, they could perhaps change this up on a regular occasion. So as I mentioned before, it is a content section. So we are not going to place it anywhere on the website. We're just going to make sure that it is shown on the entire website and set to visible for all users. One other thing just to note with mega menus, sometimes they don't look so great on mobile devices. So you can set the device settings down here, but we won't go too much into that now. So once we've now built out our beautiful menu, we can come to menus here. So we've got our menu set up, and this is what it looked like before. We just had our list items. So we'll just remove all our categories, simply remove those. And then we are going to then add in a custom link. So a simple custom link. We'll just come here, add in a simple custom link, and add in some text. And we'll add that to the menu, and we'll scooch it over to the right-hand side. Now, in order for the mega menu settings to show up, we'll just click Save Menu. And then we're going to click on our custom link. And once we do that, we can click Menu Items, and we can set the mega settings to enable custom content. So we'll do that, and then we'll click Main Mega Menu Block Categories. That's the element that we just created, and we're going to click Save and Close. Now, once we save our menu, we can go back to our website, and we can click Refresh. And of course, there's many other settings in our mega menus, but just for this training, I've kept it quite simple. And now you can see this is what our menu looks like. And it just makes it so much easier for visitors to find what they're looking for fast. And it's also just visually a lot more appealing. Okay, so that is the first pro feature. The second pro feature is your header add-ons. So you might notice when you're using the Kadence free tools, the Kadence theme, the free theme, that there are only 7 items for you to choose from. If you do have WooCommerce installed, you might see cart. So when you upgrade, you will notice there's header add-ons, and that will add in 19 other elements. So you'll simply toggle that on and then come back to your customizer and just refresh. So I'm going to reload that. And then you're open to so many more items that you can add to your header. So let's just wait till that loads. Okay, we'll come back to our header builder. Now, when we click here, you'll see there's a whole bunch more items that you can add. So from account to a search bar to a toggle area. So search bar is really great. This is kind of one that you can click in here. And if you have a lot of blog posts or products, you can click here and search for those specific items. Another great one is your account. This is good if you've got a shop, or maybe you have a course and you want to let people log in and out of your website. You also have options in the settings to set the styling different to what it looks like when you're logged in and when you're logged out. So you can also change the link as well. Now, one of my favorite is the toggle. So When you start to add quite a lot of things to your header, you'll notice it starts to get quite cluttered and it's overwhelming for your browsers. So the toggle area, when you add that there, it adds a little 3 lines at the top and you click it. I've added that in already, so I'll show you how to add that in. So if you click on that, it's just kind of blank and you can add in widgets or blocks to that. And what I've used is elements here to add this in. So if you click on this, you can see kind of what this looks like. What I've used is, a content section element. Very simple. Again, I have used a row layout, and in it I have just added some text, and then this section that says subscribe and save. Again, I don't place it anywhere, but I make sure that it's displayed on the entire site. And then simply what I do is I come here and I copy the short code, and I come back to my toggle widget area, and I make sure in my widget items that I add in that short code, and then it shows up on the front end. So that's our header add-ons. The third one we have is our content element hook. So this is really great if you want to get the right message in front of the right reader without any clutter. It's very targeted, and it's also a natural progression. Instead of having like a pop-up or something else that is stops the scroll or is invasive or is a hard sell, you could add, say, for example, someone is reading this blog post, they get to the end, you could add some content that is very relative to either the blog post or relative to maybe, for example, fitness tips. So that specific category, you could add content to the bottom. So again, we are using a content element in this specific case. So I have created something quite simple here that's got an image, some text, and then also subscribe. So we send out weekly newsletters with fitness tips, and I specifically want this to go on to single blog posts, so we can set to show it on single blog posts and then also within those categories. In addition to that, we want to place this before the comments, and if you click on this drop down, you can see you can place this in many different areas, on pages or on posts or also on products. And when I update this and save it, you'll see now when I refresh this, this will show down at the bottom. So as they've finished reading this blog post, they might think, oh, I'd love more content like this. So they can click in here and they can subscribe and get more content like that. And this will only show on fitness tips. So if we went to our blog, this is not showing up because I haven't refreshed my page. And I looked at nutrition and recipes, and I scroll down to the bottom, that wouldn't show up. So it'd only specifically be on that fitness categories. So that's awesome. That's the third one. And now the fourth one, and you might be seeing a little bit of a pattern. So element hooks is definitely worth its weight in gold. So I do use it a lot on my clients' websites to create dynamic layouts. So going on to number 4, we are going to be using the query loop, which comes with Kadence Blocks Pro, and we're also using elements again. So this is your normal blog layout that comes with Kadence, which is really great. However, as your website starts to grow, again, your clients might get lost in all the content, your browsers get lost in the content, and they want an easy way to find it. So you can use filterable or searchable post grids to just create a more clean and organized look, and just create a better user experience that will actually keep them on site. So in this instance, what we're using is an element again, but this time it is a template element. So you have different types of elements that you can use. So there's 4 different types there. So we're using a template, and what we're using is the advanced query loop from Kadence. So this, we've created a very simple layout where it's got the heading and text, and then we've got the categories at the top that people can filter through, and then underneath all the blog posts. So if I show you what the other filters are, we've got simple filters, advanced filters, sidebar left and sidebar right. And then you've also got this one that has single content on the right-hand side. So when we save this and we look at our blog post, this is what it looks like, and someone can click through the filters quite easily to find the content that they want. So we also use this on our starter templates page on our own website. So you can see on the left-hand side, you can either search, you can click new, you can go by premium or our free pre-designed templates. We also have categories. So if, for example, here I've ticked e-commerce, it will just filter through the e-commerce, or I can go hospitality, and then it will filter through hospitality pre-designed templates. Another example is this one where you've got properties, so people will be able to search by the property type, the area, and then also click in here and search or reset the filters. Okay, now on to number 5, which is our pop-ups and slide-ins. So the nice thing with when you upgrade to a Kadence Premium plan, the Ultimate plan comes with Kadence conversions. So using a pop-up or maybe a slide-in is a great way to grab your visitors' attention and guide them to take action on maybe an email freebie you have or an offering. So you can create, like I said, a pop-up or a slide-in or a banner, or you can even use this for a cookie policy. So here I have created a pop-up here that says the gym is turning 10. If you sign up here, you're going to get access to the gym, and someone can sign up, and that will pop up on the website, and someone will be able to put in their email address. So you have the option here on the right-hand side to set the launch triggers. So when exactly is this pop-up or slide-in going to show? So you have time delay, exit intent, onload, and more. Then another thing that comes with the conversions is built-in conversion graphs, which will show you the views. It'll also show you conversions and then the conversion rate, which I'll show you in a moment. This is what it looks like on the back end. So you can see your total views, you can see total converted, and then your conversion rate. So in here, when you are creating your pop-up or your whatever it is, you need to set a conversion goal. So you've got the option to do submitting a form or clicking a button. And this is really great to check trends, to test the content, to test the timing of when your pop-up is showing up on your website, and also to tweak your content to get better results. Now, some of the other settings we have down at the bottom is scheduling. So if you want to set it for the future, a future time, you can do so. And then there's many more settings, but I am not going to go into those in this training. Then we go on to ShopKit. And I think ShopKit is probably one of my favorite premium features. And this is what, if you've ever used WooCommerce and tried to amend one of their layouts, it can get quite frustrating. And ShopKit enables you to customize gallery images, variation swatches, reviews, product tabs, and also add in size charts. And it's quite easy to just toggle one button in order to change a couple of the settings. So let's look at ShopKit. When you install ShopKit, you'll see it here on the left-hand side. And as you can see, we've got product gallery, templates, swatches, etc. So looking at this, simply we toggle this on, we get an option of 7 different product gallery types. So let's go for this one. We can change product image ratios, set the thumbnail width, and a couple more settings. So if I click save, I can then come here, should be able to refresh. Doesn't seem to be working. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, I can still see your screen.
Yeah, I wonder if that InstaWP
Probably expired.
expired. We should have
Oh, well, that's not good, but don't worry, I'll carry on and I'll carry on training. Should have had a longer time than it. Okay, so our gallery does change, and luckily I do have that up here. So our gallery can change. So we have different options in terms of gallery. It's pity I cannot show you this because now I haven't spun this up, but what you also get open to is product templates. So you'll be able to create your own layouts with your product templates. So simply ticking this will then show up your products. You'll see Woo templates, and you'll be able to use Kadence Blocks in order to create a custom layout. So this is what I've created, and it's a pity that that site is not working. But what I have changed it up to is have the images kind of in a different gallery layout. And then on the right-hand side, it's sticky. And once you scroll down, you'll then get the description of the product, you'll see the shipping, and then you'll also have the questions about the fit. Then at the bottom, I've added in the reviews. So you're open to different kinds of layouts. Another thing that I wish I could show you what it looks like on the front end, but I can't, is your variation swatches. So as you saw on that first screen, if you remember, we just had a drop down for the colors. If you enable swatches, then you get this additional variation swatches here on the left, and you'll be able to add in the colors of, say, for example, my t-shirts. I've put in a black one, a brown one, and a white one. And instead of it being a drop down, it's now little squares next to the sizing, and someone can just select either black, brown, or white. And it just makes it more visually appealing for your browsers, and makes them want to shop more and convert. Okay, so the last pro.
Can I pause you for a second? Someone asked a quick question about ShopKit. It says, does ShopKit do any image optimization on insert or upload?
It does not. No, that would be a different type of plugin. It's kind of not really in its wheelhouse. So yeah, there's optimization techniques and how we like load images or load like things on the product page. So the gallery, for example, if you've got a large gallery with images that aren't going to show, we do some stuff to lazy load that. But in terms of the actual image size, you either need to optimize it before you upload or use a plugin. There's tons of different image optimization plugins out there.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, carry on.
So last but not least is the Pattern Hub. So the Pattern Hub is a tool that you can use to really speed up your workflow, but then also perhaps make an income. So if you think of when you're creating your websites, you're often using very similar layouts. I mean, I'm sure everybody's used some text on the left and an image on the right. And if you're constantly using the same kind of patterns, or you just want to save them in case you really like something, but a client didn't like it, you can do so with the Pattern Hub. And all you need to do is create a pattern on your website. And then once you have created your pattern library, so if we've got our pattern library, then you can go to another website and you can connect to that library. So I have a different website here, and I've got another page, and I can simply click Design Library, click on the connection URL. So we're going from our other website, put it in here, and then our access key will go in there, and then add the connection. Now, once I add the connection, then the patterns will show up. So it's called Kadence Live. That's what my pattern library is called. And now I'll be able to simply click on this, and it will prepare the content and it will pop in. So you will be able to create section patterns. So if we look here, you've got your patterns here, and then you've also got page items that you can create with the Pattern Hub. And that is something that a lot of creators have used in order to they sell their Pattern Hub, and that's how they make an income. So yeah, I think that's
amazing.
it.
Yes, this was really great training, really highlighting all of those pro features. I know in all of the websites that I get to build with, the pro features are almost always a must for me because it just makes my life so much easier when building a client website in particular, or even my own website. The element hooks, like you said, are worth their weight in gold. There's just so much flexibility that you get with the element hook feature. The query loop, the pattern hub, the dynamic content, I don't think is one that we touched on as well, but that also is an amazing feature as well that's built within the Kadence Pro feature. So as Nicola mentioned, it's 30% off now through August 5th. So if you have ever considered upgrading to a plan, this is a great time to do it. We will not have another big sale like this until end of year. So if you are wanting to upgrade and take advantage of all of these amazing tools, this is the perfect time to do that. And you can just visit cadencewp.com, and there's a banner at the very top. And there's no coupon code required if you want to take advantage of this sale. And the only limitation is that we don't have this plan available on the lifetime plan, or the sale on the lifetime plan. We only do that once a year, and it's already such an amazing value as is. So, but you guys can take advantage of all of the other amazing plans that we do have on sale. All right, Ben, anything else you want to chime in on that?
That was really great, Nicola. That was super great.
Amazing.
Okay, now what everybody wants to know is, can you show us more sneak peeks for 4.0?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth probably starting with a little bit of a conversation before we jump into a demo.
Okay.
I saw there's a question for me just related to ACF. So you can use relationships. I think we need to know exactly how you're wanting to use relationships to understand the answer to this question. But like early on when we first did dynamic content and all of that, relationships one of the things we hit, and like many of our early demos showed the use of relationships where you could link up a separate custom post type and pull meta from that post type into something else. So once you define the relationship, then you could pull meta from that related post. So I think it's just a matter of like, what is it you're trying to do that you can't do right now? And then we could, either it's a moment for us to improve that, or it's a moment to just even explain like, oh, this is the step. Like you've got to go first to choose relational metadata, and then choose the post you want to relate to, and then choose the metadata you want to pick. But
awesome. One other question about the sale was, does the discount apply to renewals? And the answer is yes. There is 20% off of renewals as well. So there is an article, we'll be sure to link it down below this video as well, telling you exactly how to do that. So stay tuned for that, or just reach out to our customer success team at any time, and we can help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, in short, you go into your account, you click renew now, and it applies the discount. So you don't need to add a coupon or anything like that, but you do need to automate. You do actually need to go in and do that if you want to, like if you're renewing this week or whatever. So cool. 4.0, what are we trying to do? I think it's worth just like stepping back for a minute and just like we've kind of done a lot of like, how did we get here? How did we get into this project that's months in that we're still teasing through? And I think it's kind of worth explaining some of that story. So when you think about WordPress progression and where we've been coming from, we got this whole thing of full site editing 4 years ago. And that was like the big push from core. And the adoption rate on that is abysmal. Like you would say from a product perspective that was a complete fail. Like in terms of, there's no other way to look at it. It was a total fail. It is a total fail. It's still the direction we're going. And so you have to say, well, why was it a total fail? And the reason really is like their tools weren't there to make it actually easier and more intuitive. So things like building a header actually wasn't ready. So while the templating system that allowed you to actually build the header in the block editor was created, the actual tools to build your header were extremely lacking. And so, from Kadence, everyone's been like, well, why aren't you doing full site editing? It's like, well, one, no one's really using it. Like there's a few, and I'm not like, please go and try it. If you like it, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you that it's worked. And I think for us, we're trying to build a lot of the tools to make it more successful, right? Because it still is where things are going. There is more and more, the further along we get, benefits in using full site editing. It's a weird, head scratcher on certain areas, but that's still the direction. And so at Kadence, we're trying to say, like, one, what do our customers want? What do they need? And how do we support them? So doing the dynamic content and making sure that we're creating the tools that allow you to do all of what you want to do, extending how you do elements and post queries and all of that stuff. And at the same time going, how do we think through looking at this problem of full site editing and saying, can we make this better? Which is the same thing that happened with Gutenberg. It's why Kadence was successful, is from early on, Gutenberg came out and everyone was like, we hate this. And similarly was not successful in its launch. And part of how Kadence created traction is we created Kadence Blocks and we said, okay, we get it. The existing tools aren't there, but the actual framework for what could be used could be interesting, especially as it progresses. We came out with row layout block and the ability to like change columns and set responsive settings, which crazily enough, 6 years later, we still don't have in core, but that is how we're trying to approach it. So we could have always implemented full site editing, but it would have been the same thing, which is in core, and you'd have been disappointed. In the process to get there, to say, how do we make the future of WordPress and editing in it better? We've been trying to tackle certain things. One of the main things was the header builder. We need to figure out how to build headers in Gutenberg that aren't hard or unintuitive or just really awkward. So we put a lot of time and energy last year into building a header builder that's unique to what we're doing, and the ability to have like your pop-up where you can get a bird's eye view of your header and move blocks around, and then also like work individually in blocks and change styles and do mega menus and all that stuff. And so like we're in a progression there, and full site editing, turning Kadence into a full site editing theme is still in the works, and we're still, we're moving closer and closer. We do support more theme JSON stuff now. When it came to, okay, how do we solve better things in full site editing? Global styles is like one of the key things that would make that more appealing, because you weirdly get less global control when you go into full site editing, because it's all locked into templates and you don't get some of the dynamic control that you would normally have. And then there's just a need for global styles, regardless if you want to use full site heading one day or not. Like full site editing aside, if you stick with what would be classic WordPress or whatever, full site editing is going to be really helpful. And so that is one of the main things we're solving with 4.0, is the ability to globally style kind of everything. There's been a push on the more agency dev side to go real class-based, real focused on like writing your own variables and selecting different classes. We are not going that route, intentionally so. We're intentionally saying like, hey, we see that. It's cool for devs. It's very dev-minded, and you need to know and understand a lot of basic CSS and things to be able to like use that. We're going very much of the like, we want to give you all of the power for why devs are spending the time to build that way, without you having to ever think about a variable or ever think about like some of the behind the scenes technology that makes the global styles work, which is a lot of variables and classes. And so that kind of like presets like, okay, we're going to come into this and do it. And it's at that point that we really decided we actually need to rebuild Kadence Blocks kind of from the ground up, because as we're doing this global styles work and implementing that whole system, the way we treat attributes and blocks needs to change. The way we structure how we think about applying settings, applying CSS, it needs to change. It needs to be like from a technical perspective, it needs to have this whole idea of inheritance and ability to change things from a separate source than the actual block itself, but then the block still renders out. So in doing that, we've also been like, we can rebuild blocks. We need to do it to make global styles really what we want it to be. And we can be thinking about making global style or Kadence Blocks for very AI friendly. As we move toward a realm of more and more AI, the future is going to be the ability to say, hey, AI, go and make this change for me. And you not have to go find where that setting exists or anything like that. The AI can intuit and do that. And even to the point of, hey, design this page for me. Here's my specs. It runs it. And you say, I like this, I like that. But having a conversation with that. So we needed to build it to where it was like real clear architecture from a JSON format of like, this is how you would manipulate things. And then the AI could be able to read that and understand it better. So that's kind of like how we got here and all the big goals around 4.0 and all that we're trying to accomplish. Obviously, we're not rebuilding blocks with the idea of like crushing backward compatibility or anything like that. We're literally just going to say like, if you have an existing site, you're probably not building it actively, so leave it. Don't mess with it. Like it's optimized. We're actually doing some more things to optimize what exists in current blocks. So there's no concern about like long term. It's more about like, we're going to give you some new tools to build with. And so there'll be new blocks and deprecated blocks. Deprecated is the wrong word. It'll be legacy, because we're never going to remove them from your site. We're not going to make it not work. It's always going to work. 5 years down the road, those blocks will still work. It's not about actually trying to get rid of those blocks. It's more about saying we have new blocks to use, and those blocks are going to all be linked in with global styles. So is that clear? My audience that can talk to me, does that feel like you understand where we're going and why a little bit?
I think Jake said it's the Kadence way. So I like what he said there. Wise Creeker also said Kadence Header Builder rocks. There are a few questions already. I don't know if you want to field them about variables, or do you want to wait till the end?
Yeah. So let me go in so we don't get lost on like technical languages of variables and people misunderstand. Let me screen share. If you can add that. So what we're looking at is, how do we make it to where you're not having to enter in exact pixel sizings anywhere for things, and yet you still have exact pixel sizing control? And that's kind of the idea of like, we want you to have total control, but never actually have to enter things in terms of like statically, I want it to be 19 pixels. Because if then 3 months from now or a day from now, someone decides it needs to be 20 pixels and not 19, and now you got to go update every place you put 19 and try to remember that. And that doesn't really work. So the other thing with this is we're really trying to get people to think through design systems and designing with consistency, so that your website, the actual end product, feels consistent. It feels better to the end user, to the person who's browsing it, looking at it. And so kind of everywhere, and we already do this now in blocks, we give you these controls of like t-shirt sizes all over the place in terms of padding and stuff. What is changing a little bit here is, or not really changing, but like what's improving here is when you see those t-shirt sizes, and we're going to just look at font size for a second, you have the ability to determine exactly what that is through your global styles. So we have this idea of a style book. This style book globally sets all of the variables, all of the presets, all of the things for your site. And it comes with defaults that we think are sane and really useful, but you can run away with them. And so, if we go in and look at font sizes, you can now set your small font size. You can put it as a clamp size. So you can say, on like my minimal viewport, so on a mobile device, I want it to be this size, and it can be rem, it can be pixel, and then this is the larger size. So that way your fonts automatically grow and shrink based on what you've set. You don't have to go in there and say, mobile, I want it to be small, unless you like the mobile design is totally different, which sometimes is the case. And sometimes it makes total sense to go in on mobile and be like, I need this to be a different preset or variable. But now you'll be able to go in and set these font sizes kind of exactly as you want. And if you're like, I don't want to use clamp, it's fine. You can use, any of the settings here. Clamp just makes it easy to set for your viewport range. That is a quick example of how you can use the power of a variable, which is something that is set somewhere else, but applied here without ever touching a CSS class or a variable. It's just click, done. And then now you can move on. And if later on you're like, hey, I need to make my extra large a little bit larger across my whole site or whatever, you can change it. That is on a very settings-based level. And so if you think through like any place where you can set stuff, we're exposing settings. So, your border settings, we're exposing this kind of stuff more, border radius. So you have these presets. So you're not going, is it 8 pixel border radius or 12 pixel border radius? It's just, I'm using my medium border radius, and that's across. And that allows you to kind of like control globally. What's really interesting about global styles is that you don't just have to have one. You can have as many variations of your global styles as you want, and you can have those variations only control one thing or everything. So in a situation where you're like, I know every time I'm making a hero, I want my XXL font size to be different. I want it to be something extremely large and outrageous. But for the rest of my site, I want to be able to use XXL. So I want to be able to use it on other pages and stuff like that. And I want that XXL size to kind of be globally set. But in hero sections of my page, I know I want that size to be massive. You can do that by going into your style book. You've got this idea of global styles. You can pick another one. We have presets in there. So you can pick a style, like this is an example of a global style. You can go into this font size and you can make it something, whatever you want it to be. And then anywhere that you apply that on your container level, so like on this outside level, when you go in and you apply that style, that preset then gets inherited on down. So it'll inherit everything from your base and then anything you override in the next level of global styles. So that allows you to say, like, I'm going to create a hero level global style, or just like in this situation, because you've got a lot of font sizes, we think the most common use case is going to be based on contrast and accent. I'm building different sections of my content, and I want to know that I can switch those colors around and stuff very easily. Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to clear this out for a second. There's this, and just to show us a couple like quality of life changes, because the whole UI is changing in 4.0. We're doing some things where you've previously been allowed to like control things. We're giving you more control in certain areas. And then like if I hit the control button, I can sync them all up. So like I can manipulate them all together by just holding a key down. And if I go in here, I can open it up and change it, but I can also manipulate it right here. So I don't even have to like open this pop-up. I can just change these things right here very easily for the controls, or you can like jump into like, I want to use a padding preset, and then it's boom, that's the presets being used. So let me talk about presets for a second. Actually, just a couple other like quality of life things. So let me make this large for a second. And we are adding support for variable fonts, which is cool because Google is really pushing forward on this. So a lot of Google fonts are now variable font enabled, which means that you can load one font file and get all of the range of weight. And that can just like, one, makes your site lighter when you're using different weights, but just give you a lot more like detailed control over that font weight. So that's like, and again, we're just trying to find things that like, how do we make this tool to use just a lot better? And then, adding transform tools. So you'll be able to do certain transform tools, rotate things. I mean, I can kind of show you that. And then they'll all have hover styles, so you can change the rotation on hover, and then you can actually change the transition and animate that. So lots of newer stuff too. Like it's not just like, hey, here's all the old stuff and we're connecting it with global styles. We're giving you new controls for more manipulation of stuff. So there's this idea of settings based, font size based, whatever, those individual variables. And then there's this idea of presets. And presets are a collection inside of a component of a bunch of different variables, if you will. So I can choose this preset in my typography, title 3XL, and it auto applies a color, font size, line height, font family, font weight. All just like, boom, it's in. And I can determine what's in that preset. So again, if I go back to my style book, I'm going to go into base controls, style guide here, title XL. There's all my controls, and I can just like run away with this however I want to change things. So if I wanted to like use a totally custom size for that preset, I could, or I can stick with a variable. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like a group of variables. It can be whatever you want in terms of like applying the font size. But it's really nice when you're using a group of variables, because then it's just more interlinked, and you can then, you know, your title 3XL, when you change the font size, you know, you're also changing the title 3XL, things like that. And what's great about this, by setting it up, I've got this global color set. Now, close without saving. This is all globally connected. And because it's globally connected on the style wide, I can change the global style to something darker. Color automatically switches. So you can hook up these things to where you can just quickly be like, actually, I want that section dark. Or for you, it might not be dark. It might just be like, I want it tweaked a little bit. I want to switch the background from like one type of preset to another type of preset. And I want the colors within that to all work. And you know, you can apply multiple different presets, and it's going to use the last one wherever that is, but it will use styles within it. So a quick example of that, let me just open up the style book. In my contrast style, I'll go in here and I'm going to set the font size to small and save this. Now, when I go to set contrast, you can see that that font size, which was linked, just dropped all the way down. And that's a very like harsh example of like what all this can do for you. So it just allows you to, again, globally connect all of your settings to whatever exact thing you want it to be, change it later on if you want to, and it'll update across your whole site, and then add different levels of like control throughout each, so you can really work within a design system. And the big idea is like, we want you to come in, add a text block, and click, that needs to be an H2, because that, when you're building out a page, H2 and all of that really depends on the content and what you're doing for SEO purposes and accessibility. And then, but the style needs to be this, and it's one click and you've set everything already. And so you have this consistent of like, I can just click through and do that very, very quickly when you're building out your pages. And as well as our, design library being more useful, because it will inherit all your global styles. So it's not just going to inherit your colors anymore and your font family, it's going to inherit all of it. So if you've got crazy sizes for padding, crazy sizes for text, whatever, whenever you import things from the design library, it'll come with all of that stuff linked up already. So you get the benefits of like, this stays within my system that I can globally control. So we have this idea, individual presets, background presets is a cool example of this, of just being able to click through. I've got, basic presets. And then when I want to do something, let me just give this font something here, go into style book. I'm in the contrast style already. I'm going to clear out that. I can't clear it. I got to set it. In presets, I've got these ones here. I'm just going to go into base. It's set as a color. I'm going to add a layer on top of that. That is a mask. And I'll make it this color just to kind of explain. So now there's 2 layers in this preset. When I go in and change this container to use my contrast global style, I can see that I'm here, but if I switch to my base preset, it's going to pull in those 2 layers. Whereas with that gone, it only has 1 layer. So it's not just about doing CSS, it's about setting up backgrounds for all of your hero content that you can then use. And that background might have images, whatever, still globally connected. Patterns is another good example of cool backgrounds where you're like doing just like a subtle pattern behind it. And then you can apply it with a preset. You'll be able to add presets. You know, each thing, we're going to start you out, everyone in their site with, you know, existing presets and stuff. But that is like the quick 4.0. I think the question that I'm going to have to answer next is, when do I get to use it? Is that right? Is that
No
mostly?
one's asked that question yet,
Okay.
but you've raised it, so you can answer.
I mean, so yeah, we don't know for sure. We've worked through a lot of the technical hurdles for this whole inheritance system, which is very specific to us. Kadence is the only one working this way, where you can actually like visually see in your settings. It's hard to explain like how cool that is. So it's one thing to apply a class and a style. It's another to say, here's the actual settings that are actually representing what is set globally, and we're funneling that all down. So a lot of that technical stuff, that's done. We're at a place now where we're doing some finessing on a couple of key blocks that we labeled as like, we got to get these ones done before we start building any other blocks, because we got to build out all these components. Like every single one of these components you see is new. It's not, they don't exist. So we redid how we grab fonts and how we store fonts. We made that faster, more performant. We redid just the styling and just the UI around a lot of these controls. A lot of that work's done. So you'd say like, man, this seems really close. And at the same time, there's still just a lot of work to actually fully get this ready to go out, where we need to build a couple more blocks and bring in like the transforms. So what you're going to be able to do with an existing row layout, for example, is transform it into 4.0. It won't be exact one for one. All the classes are going to change. So it's going to be one of those things where you decide to do it and you can undo if you want to. But like those transforms have to be built. We got to build out some more blocks. We've got to build out some more stuff. So we're still easily 2 months out from a launch. I think our optimistic timeline of like getting this in people's hands as a beta is going to be September. And I think, you know, that's still our goal. We want to get this in your hands by September to start using, and tell us like anything weird that you feel with the controls or whatever. But this is definitely getting to a place where even internally, like I'm getting excited. I'm like, man, we are getting there. Like this is starting to really work how I imagined. It's coming together. And you know, things with the design library, there was some technical stuff for like, how are we going to show your presets in a preview of items that are in the design library? And it's not just, again, it's not just CSS. There's actual DOM content that has to be generated when you're talking about multiple layers in a background. And so solving some of that stuff has been cool challenges to figure out. And also like, we've got it. So we're not worried about anything from a technical side at this point. Now it's just like, we got to do the work of really making sure we implement all this stuff and finesse all the details out a little bit. So that's kind of like exactly where the project is right now.
I do have a few technical questions. And I think where you're at right now would be great to answer Jake's. He says, did you cover what migration might look like with Kadence Blocks only? Is it an intentional breaking change?
It is an intentional new path. So we don't think of it as a breaking change, in that when you update from blocks 3, whatever version it will be, to 4, that anything will break on your site. We very much are actually leaving blocks 3 alone. We've done all the development for 4 in a completely different file system. So that way we can know it's completely separate. We're not risking a bunch of breakage when we update. The main thing is, what you'll see is the labels on our existing blocks will get a legacy tag of some kind. we're still working out that little design, probably like a little L of some kind with like a subdued color. And then all the new blocks will be listed there. So you'll be able to use the legacy blocks as long as you want to. Again, we have no reason to get rid of them. It's more of like, we just want to be able to support this new path. And the best way forward without breaking everyone's site is to keep it separate.
Awesome. Okay. Is Kadence providing animated text?
So we have like typed text right now, and that's going to exist. We are pushing off some of the new animation controls till after the 4.0 release. So we have like a whole kind of concept around a new animation engine that will allow you to animate with scroll. So not just like when you get there, something animates in, but like as you scroll by, something's moving, changing, whatever. And so that's where you would have the idea of like, I want my text to grow, or that would come with that animation stage.
Okay, so that would also probably answer animation background presets question.
So animation backgrounds generally are a video or something along those lines, and that's perfectly fine. You can have a preset video background. If you're talking about something with like a canvas, that would come later with like, where you're doing something like that. I mean, we have the Lottie block for certain types of animations that you could like apply and then add something over the top, but really most of the background animations are videos generally, just real subtle.
Okay. And then Joris asks, Kadence Presets Hub? I don't know.
So I think certainly we'll have an ability for people that are designing collections and things like that for our, for our pattern hub to be able to hand off global styles. So like you'll be able to choose, like, do I want to get this pattern and do I want to get a global style with it that it gets imported at the same time? That's certainly in the cards. So that way you could, if somebody's doing a design library and they've got a very custom global style and you don't want to, like by default, it's going to inherit the global style of the site that it's receiving it. But if you wanted to be like, I want to also hand my global style off at that point, or my global styles plural, you could do that. Or you could have a separate thing of like, here, import my global styles. Obviously, with child theme creators, your global styles will all be set in the child theme. So you'll be able to determine what's there, what they're using as a default.
Okay, awesome. We have a few questions about variables, which is kind of towards the beginning of when you started talking. One is, could we also map variables into fields? One of the use cases that I need a lot is mapping my non-Kadence theme variables into Kadence Blocks variables.
So again, this is like yes. Let's say for some reason you're like, I freaking love my variable markup and I have my CSS file and my my custom variable is what I want to set for my font size. We have made it to where almost every setting has an ability to be custom, where you can just drop in whatever you want. We're not going to force you into any, we're just saying at this point, it's on you. And maybe I can show an example of that. So this is a custom font size and I can type whatever I want into here and it can be invalid. So we're not validating or whatever. So at this point you could add your own variable. And so again, if you go into if you went into the style book and decided large is not my clamp settings, it is my custom variable because you really want to use your custom variable, you can do that. You'll just be able to go to custom and hook it up to your custom variable.
Okay. He also asked another question as well about variables. Could we also map variables into fields? One of the use cases, he just added,
okay, think theme button style versus Kadence button styles. So again, with our button block, we're going to have 3 button wide presets. So it'll control like the whole thing, all the settings in button. Because the idea is you add a button, you click the preset. and it will default to primary, and you can hook up primary. So that's one where, like, if your theme is dealing with buttons differently, you can either make it match by connecting variables into those presets. Again, going in like, my theme uses this variable for font size. I'm going to use that in my global styles, and then you can connect it that way. So you'll be able to do a lot of that connection if you're using a theme that's doing something very specific or side. Yeah.
Okay. And then just 2 more questions about AI. Is that okay to bring up now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So first one is from DR. How far is Kadence from the AI programming capability of blocks?
I think this question is asking how far until AI can programmably create blocks. And part of that is AI. If you've worked with it on this level, it is very bad at being consistent about creating anything that you define as the markup. So in this idea of like, hey, I want you to create a page in whatever markup, even when it's doing HTML and CSS, it gets things wrong. The problem is when it gets things wrong in blocks, it breaks the block. Like Gutenberg doesn't support invalid markup, so to just break the block and the show broken. That said, it's getting better all the time. And so, I would guess that with the markup changes we did in 4.0 to make it more easy for an AI to be consistent, like there's just consistent patterns it can follow for every single block. Between that and the improvements around AI, I think there's a future where that happens, but I think we're probably a year away from seeing that actually in a use case where you're like, oh, this is really helpful. I think for the time being, and really for a ways out, using AI to put together pieces of a site, which, we've done a lot of experiments around of like, here's a bunch of patterns, now piece these patterns together and fill it with content. That's a lot of what our AI starter template does. We've done even more iterations on that. I think more of that will come where it's piecing together existing styles. It doesn't have to style things, just to say, based on this category and tags, I want to use this pattern. And then because I'm using that pattern, I know it needs a heading, a subheading, and a paragraph and a button text. So I'll fill it with that stuff. That's where I see, when you look at like some of the AI builders, Lovable, a lot of those stuff, there's a template behind the scenes because just giving AI free reign often doesn't produce consistent results. It can work sometimes, but oftentimes getting it to fill out a template is actually you're just much more successful. And so similarly with design and things like that, it's much more consistent when we can give it patterns to work with.
Awesome. And then are there now or in the future AI or a training that's going to teach Kadence users how to prompt AI to make website designs? And I think that's speaking to what you're just talking about.
Yeah, if you wanted a completely custom design, new to today, and the AI is going to build it, we're still a ways out from an AI using blocks to do that. So, yeah. So that's, it's still coming. And there's semi side steps around it, but like, ultimately a lot of like the work that you see into the starter templates and the designs there and stuff like that is because AI doesn't always do a great job. And oftentimes you can take those starter templates and get much further along with a little bit of effort. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know there are a handful of questions still in the chat. We'll address those as we can, but it's already been over an hour. So we want to honor everyone's time and thank you all for being here for sure. There was one comment that I wanted to show. Jay says, I have built with Webflow, Elementor, Squarespace, and I'm sold on this direction. I feel like this keeps the customer in mind and makes it easy for them to manage their sites confidently. Thank you so much for everyone's participation and feedback and excitement. And we are doing everything we can to get this into your hands as soon as possible, while also making sure it's something that you guys can trust when building. So we aren't going to rush it, but we are pushing as hard as we can. And anything else y'all want to share, Nicola, Ben?
No.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone again for joining us live, and take advantage of the sale. We have I'll stop sharing that screen. 30% off now through August 5th. So please go to cadencewp.com and take advantage of it. One other thing I wanted to mention as well is that it's not just Kadence that's on sale. It's also Stellar Sites, which is hosting that also pre-installs Kadence as well as Solid WP, a premium security plugin. So you can have an all-in-one kind of experience with the full flexibility of WordPress if you sign up with Stellar Sites. And annual plans for Stellar Sites is on sale for 30% off as well. If you're looking for the events calendar or LearnDash or Orderable, Iconic, Give WP, there's a handful of plugins as well. If you visit, again, our website, cadencewp.com/stellar-sale, you'll find all of the details there. So I'll type that right here, cadencewp.com, stellar-sale. Here we go. I'll put this on the screen for the end. But yeah, that's how you guys can find out about the details. Thank you all again for being here, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks all.
Bye.